Okay, we are in the conclusion of part one, the challenge. And this is the conclusion to the problematique. Never in the course of history has humankind been faced with so many threats and dangers, catapulted unprepared into a world where time and distance have been abolished. Man is sucked into a planetary cyclone swirling with seemingly unrelated factors, the causes and the consequences of which form an inextricable maze. And yet we have in the preceding chapter set out a number of facts, the most important of which are inequitable economic growth, governance, and the capacity to govern, global food security and water availability, environment and energy, population growth and migrations, the upheaval of a world, geostrategic facts. All these factors are interdependent, interactive, and constitute what it has henceforth been agreed to call the world problematique, according to the formula launched by the Club of Rome. Though public opinion has acquired a more or less relative grasp of these facts, awareness of some of them is all too often coupled with the ignorance of other no less important ones, as well as of the true breadth of each of them and the interaction between them. We must also note that the elements of the new problematique do not strike all people in the same way. Some, such as the dangers threatening environment, affect mankind as a whole. Others, such as the demographic explosion affecting the countries in the South, appear to be of more narrow concern, but in reality have repercussions to varying degrees of intensity on every continent in the world without exception. Finally, at this coming turn of the century, mankind is overwhelmed by the scope of the phenomena coming at it from all sides, overwhelmed, and the word is not too strong, because the traditional structures, governments, and institutions can no longer manage the problems in their present dimension. To make things worse, the archaic and unsuitable structures are set in a true moral crisis. The disappearance of value systems, the questioning of traditions, the collapse of ideologies, the absence of a global vision, the limits of the current practices of democracy confirm the void confronting societies. Individuals feel helpless, caught as it were between the rise of previously unknown perils on the one hand and an incapacity to answer the complex problems in time and to attack the roots of evil, not just its consequences, on the other hand. States with constitutional laws and rights violate international law anytime the matter is one of strict national interest. This is not really new, but the magnitude of the consequences of an interdependent world is a totally new fact and globally totally visible. Religions often serve as an excuse for fratricidal strife. Christians massacre other Christians in Ireland or Lebanon without this having anything to do whatsoever with faith in God of the Beatitudes. How can we not be concerned, along with many Arabs and Muslims, about the holy wars conducted in the name of Allah, which cast no more than a thin veil over the ambitions of war chiefs who pay little heed to the teachings of the Quran? How can we not wonder, along with many Israelis, about the confusion of the religious mission of the people of Israel described in the Bible with the offensive annexation policy of governments shamelessly violating the United Nations laws to which they have subscribed, at least in writing? The law of the jungle may be regressing, but the recent resurgence of its manifestations shows just how fragile world balance has remained. Such fragility lies also in the hearts and minds of men, the oft impotent citizens of impotent nations. And we observe a general malaise with multifarious signs striking men today with stupor, paralysis, and unnamed fears. Will we let ourselves be crushed by a problematique that seems superhuman when we ourselves are at its root? Will we let ourselves be turned away from the real stakes and take refuge in a life on the margin of society or in a quest for personal success and ignore our individual social responsibility? Must we abandon ourselves to a sort of fatalism that would consider as inevitable or insurmountable the slow decline of humankind? This is where the formidable challenge we are facing today lies. We shall now try to examine the possible responses to this challenge. A global challenge requires a global approach. And there's another little insert here, and it says, "Time flies, our lives run out, and yet we are unable to overcome our insatiable urge for acquiring more and more worldly possessions. And this is by Sri Shankaracharya. Charya. So I'm not sure how to say it, but it's an Indian name. It says 8th century Hindu philosopher and saint. And that ends part 1 of the first global revolution.